I don't think, like, what is evil? What is good? Like,
I
what
was
does
about
that
to ask
mean?
you,
How are we going
what's
to
an acceptable definition of that?
How are we going to set that as a standard? The good thing about having a god in your ontology is that you like automatically have a foundation for understanding what good and evil would be.
Right. You need something to associate facts with values, I think is the appropriate way to say that. Of like, well, why is it bad to just like kill a bunch of people? Like, you know,
question mark.
Yeah, like you need something to actually make that statement. And in most cases it's like a god or divine being just saying what it is that is good. There is some, like, you know, Sam Harris's Moral Landscape that's kind of basically saying that suffering to any conscious being is bad, and that's just the starting point, which provides some logically consistent foundation, even though it's maybe not like rock solid philosophically. It's at least like something that everyone can agree on, probably.
Well, not really.
I mean, most people don't actually have a philosophically sound foundation for their morality.
Yeah.
So like that's at least better than what most people have, I think. And then even more philosophically sound is just saying there's a divine being that gives you morality, or like,
yeah, I mean,
good,
like,
bad.
I don't even know if I would say it's better or worse, because I don't know how you would measure that. Like, I don't know if there's any sense in which being more philosophically sound is better than being less. I think we'd have a sociological reason for thinking that way. We've had the Enlightenment happen. We have had rationalism. We've had empiricism. We're in a position where knowledge is typically derived through the scientific method, if push comes to shove. So in that sense, I think you could say that it would be better. But I don't know if that's necessarily true.
I don't even know if we actually use the scientific method for a lot of things that we consider science.
Yeah, not really.
It's just like anything that someone thinks is reasonable, they'll just say like, we have science, we've proven this, even if they just like are using like induction or something.
I think what I found in studying philosophy is that philosophy and all of the fields that it's created, so like science and math in a sense. I don't know if mathematicians would probably get mad at me if I said that.
I don't know. I don't think.
But I think there's a sense in which you could say that math was kind of derived from philosophy in a sense.
It could be.
Also out of necessity. But there's a philosophical root to it. And science, I think I said already. All of those things are a lot like art. In the sense that, like, you have these tools, you have this system that you're working in, and your tool is logic, and using logic you can kind of create the model that you want to create, and whether or not that model is accurate becomes very, very, very difficult to say the more that you poke at it. Like, being a skeptic is very easy. You can be very, very good at being skeptical. And you can create a super elaborate model that has explanations for this and explanations for that and explanations for this and explanations for that. But to say that it actually maps onto what is actually there is very difficult. And so I think a lot of the way that we do that is typically by what we want to be true. I feel like
Are you talking about the gap between like someone's maybe logically consistent ideology versus like empirical reality, like the disconnect between those things? At first it seemed like you were talking about like there's logic and things that we use as tools to work on a even more fundamental substrate of reality or something.
It's that, like, okay, let's say, what's a good example of this?
Yeah.
Let's even take the idea of like God being evil. I can create a whole model that shows that God is evil. Whether or not I accept that model and believe that model, I think has more to do with whether or not I want it to be true and whether or not I've shown that it actually is. Because I could also create a whole model that explains why God is not evil. And I could believe that model.
Yeah, and like there's there's a ton of logically consistent belief structures you could hold in your head. And they might help you navigate the world with varied success, you know. I think I understand what you're saying here.
Yeah. So I like, in that, I feel like my perspective and my approach to philosophy has changed. Like, when I went into school and started studying philosophy, I thought philosophy would show me the answers, and I could use philosophy to discover answers. And I don't think that I've found that to be true at all.
Yeah.
What I can use philosophy to do is ask questions.
Yeah.
To the extreme success.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the same thing could even be said about science in a lot of ways, even though there's a lot more grounding to a lot of scientific content than there is to like philosophical content, just by the nature of the field. But there's a lot of ways in which it's creating a model that may or may not be accurate, and so I always kind of hold it with a loose hand. And the only things that I can really hold on to tightly are the things that I have from the Lord.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that I am.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. I agree with you.